I never in a million freaking years would have imagined that I'd be able to get a blooming onion after the apocalypse.
Well, I was always of the opinion that the blooming onion was one of the signs of the apocalypse. Were you aware that a blooming onion has the fat content of 67 strips of bacon?
No, but I guess that sounds about right. You know, apocalypse really hasn't impacted my life all that much. I mean, I used to just hang around playing video games, stuffing my face, and shooting the shit, and
now, you basically hang around playing video games, stuffing your face, and shooting the shit. I know it's strange, but it's only been a month since we snuck down here like thieves in the night, leaving approximately 6.7 billion suckers above ground to get burned, boiled, drowned, crushed, and generally terminated in any number of horrifying ways by Planet X. I guess I should be upset, but it hasn't bothered me a bit.
Call me an insensitive, mother-freaking piece of crap, but it was way too goddamn crowded before the apocalypse. I guess I sort of miss the real sun, but I definitely don't miss waiting in line for coffee. Now tell me some more about James Paul McCartney becoming Aleister Crowley.
Oh right. Well, we had used the film's Help, Magical Mystery Tour, Lucifer Rising, and Rosemary's Baby to link Paul and the Beatles to Crowley, and we're headed towards Charlie Manson eventually. For now, let's get back to the liner notes for the 2007 McCartney album Memory Almost Full.
That's where we left off, you're right.
Okay, well. In the liner notes, McCartney inexplicably refers to himself as the King of Cosmania, which makes no sense, until you realize that it's an anagram for son of the Magician, and that Magician is spelled with a letter K, just like Crowley the Magician was fond of spelling it.
Wow, the King of Cosmania.
Yes, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. There's no creepy Luciferian ritual crap going on here. I double dog pinky swear that the King of Cosmania is just some goofy name I made up. It certainly isn't a slyly placed anagram, and I'm most definitely not serving as an earthly container for the soul of the beast 666. Wink.
Sarcasm noted. It certainly is odd, to say the least.
And we haven't even touched on the fact that Rosemary's Baby was filmed in the Dakota, which is where Lennon later lived, and bloody well died.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, Rosemary's friend lands on a white freaking Volkswagen Beetle when she either jumps or is pushed out of a Dakota window.
Yes. Now that you mention it, the body and the car are placed right in front of the building, just by the entrance, where Lennon was shot 12 years later. Polanski could have used any car in that scene, but he used the same color and model that was famously used on the Abbey Road album cover.
Jesus Christ in a chicken bucket. That was the car with the license plate that says 28th, indicating that James Paul McCartney would have been 28 in 1969, if he wouldn't have died in 1966.
Well, some people claim that he really only would have been 27, but those people fail to realize that in many Eastern religions, the 9-month gestation period also counts towards one's age. I'd also like to add here that Stanley Kubrick also used Volkswagen Beetles in his films, and it wouldn't shock me if he was dropping hints as well, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. I think it's time to get back to Charles Manson.
By all means.
Well, we talked about the Tate LaBianca murders and the fact that Roman Polanski's pregnant wife was killed by the Manson posse, but we didn't mention that the murders wrote the words Helter Skelter and Piggies on the wall in the victim's blood.
Right. You know, it's strange how often I've heard about the Helter Skelter thing, but never really thought about it in terms of the Beatles. It always seemed nutty to think that they could have had anything to do with the murders, but
now you're not so sure, are you? Interestingly enough, the Manson family hung out in Topanga Canyon at a place called the Spiral Staircase in 1967. Most people think that Helter Skelter is just a meaningless term, but in England, it's actually a sliding board that resembles a spiral staircase. So, Paul wrote a song named after a sliding board that resembles a spiral staircase.
Meanwhile, Manson's family hung out at a place called the Spiral Staircase, murdered Roman Polanski's pregnant wife, and wrote Helter Skelter on the wall in the victim's blood.
Yes, and Manson admitted that he became familiar with the term Helter Skelter because of Paul's song. Not only that, but Manson hung out with a famous record producer named Terry Melcher, and also lived with Dennis Wilson, the Beach Boys drummer, so it's not inconceivable for him to have met Paul when he was in California with Mal Evans in 1967. This is especially interesting, because Lennon was once quoted as saying that the Beatles once stayed at Doris Day's house, and Terry Melcher was Doris Day's son.
This keeps getting creepier and creepier.
I haven't even told you the best goddamn part. Not long before the Tate murder, the Manson family was living at a place called the Spahn Ranch. When the ranch was raided by the police, they took a photograph of a door that also had Helter Skelter written on it. But more importantly, it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all good children go to heaven written on it.
Fucking hell. I never knew that. That's a line from the song You Never Give Me Your Money.
Right. Another McCartney song. And this one is from the album Abbey Road. The best part is that at this point, Abbey Road still hadn't been released yet.
Tickle my ass with a fucking feather. At a certain point, a collection of coincidences becomes evidence of a possible conspiracy.
We just might be at that point.
It's getting late. Would you like to sleep over?
Not likely, Steve. Not likely.